Welcome to Manzoor and Sons.
These giant pink salt boulders look like ordinary rocks, but inside this factory they are crushed, refined, and transformed into premium salt crystals. From giant raw salt boulders to clean, sparkling crystals. This is the full industrial journey of Himalayan pink salt. Mine uses a room and pillar system, leaving massive columns of salt in place to help support the chambers while selected sections are extracted. The drilling rig creates a precise pattern of deep holes across the salt face. These holes prepare the selected section for a carefully controlled underground blast. A licensed blasting team places controlled commercial charges inside the drilled holes. The surrounding chamber is then cleared before the salt section is safely fractured. Some fractured slabs are still too large for underground transport, so a hydraulic breaker reduces them into manageable pieces before loading begins. Once loaded, the freshly mined salt is carried through the underground roadway toward a collection area, where it will be prepared for transport to the processing factory. The freshly mined salt is unloaded into a controlled stockyard before it is inspected and transferred to the processing factory. Every outgoing shipment is weighed and recorded, so the mine and processing facility can accurately track the quantity of raw salt being transported. The approved salt boulders now travel from the mining site. They are going to a specialized processing factory. This is where they are processed. The rough mineral rocks will be cleaned. When the shipment reaches the factory, it is weighed again and checked against the mine dispatch record before the raw salt is accepted for processing. The raw boulders are unloaded into a reinforced receiving pit. From here, controlled feeders will move the salt toward the first crushing and cleaning stages of the factory process. A heavy apron feeder controls the flow of raw salt, preventing the massive boulders from overwhelming the crushing equipment. Inside the primary jaw crusher, powerful mechanical pressure reduces the massive salt boulders into smaller pieces that can move safely through the remaining factory line. Vibrating screens separate the crushed salt by size. Pieces that are still too large are diverted for another controlled crushing pass. Oversized pieces pass through a secondary crusher, reducing them to a more consistent size, without grinding the salt into finished powder. After primary crushing and screening, the uniformly sized salt is collected in a buffer hopper. The next stage will remove surface dust and natural mining residue through a controlled washing process. The salt receives a controlled wash using saturated water. removing surface dust while limiting the amount of salt that dissolves during cleaning. Inside the rotary washer, the salt chunks tumble under controlled sprays. This movement loosens stubborn surface residue without grinding the salt into smaller crystals. Before drying, the washed salt is spread into an even layer so heated, filtered air can remove moisture consistently from every piece. Filtered, heated air removes the remaining moisture, preparing the salt for precise grinding and final crystal size grading. Before grinding begins, samples are checked to confirm that the washed salt has reached the required moisture condition for stable processing and storage. Before grinding, the approved salt passes beneath a magnetic separator designed to capture accidental ferrous metal contamination from upstream equipment. Multiple calibrated screens now separate the salt by particle size, producing coarse grinder crystals, medium cooking salt, and finer table salt grades. The smallest granules receive an additional fine grinding pass, producing the consistent particle size required for shaker and table salt products. The factory now holds 3 separate products: coarse crystals for grinders, medium crystals for cooking, and fine salt for shakers and retail pouches. Before any salt is packaged, representative samples from every production grade are collected and sent for laboratory quality testing. The laboratory confirms that the washed and dried salt contains sufficiently low moisture for stable grinding, packaging, and storage. Laboratory analysis verifies that the batch meets the factory's required purity and food quality specifications before it can be released for packaging. After final inspection, each crystal grade enters its own packaging hopper, keeping coarse, medium, and fine salt completely separated. The coarse crystals are divided into precise portions so every grinder jar receives a consistent amount of Himalayan pink salt. Measured portions of coarse pink salt now flow into transparent grinder jars, allowing the natural crystal colors to remain clearly visible. Automatic capping heads tighten each grinder top to a controlled torque, creating a secure closure without damaging the container. Finished grinder jars are grouped and placed into protective shipping cartons, with dividers preventing damage during transportation. Medium-sized crystals are divided into precise portions, ensuring that every retail pouch receives a consistent amount of Himalayan pink salt. Because fine table salt flows differently from coarse crystals, a precision auger filler measures each portion with controlled rotation. For restaurants, food manufacturers, and international buyers, larger quantities of Himalayan pink salt are packed into heavy food-grade bulk sacks. From massive underground boulders to carefully processed premium crystals, this is how Himalayan pink salt is prepared for homes and businesses around the world. Subscribe to our channel.
Contact us Manzoor and Sons. 0300-711-1798. 0337-211-1798. Thank for watching.